I have heard these two books being compared by a few people, and some people think that one author plagiarized the other one. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I happen to own both books, so I'm just going to read and do a comparison of these two books. So the first one is The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine, and then we have The Housemaid by Freida Mcfadden. So I hear that the plots of these are almost identical, and so I'm curious to see if they are and to see how similar they are. It puts me in a bit of a pickle though, because whichever one I decide to read first will then spoil the other one if like the twist is the same. So that's kind of a bummer, because then it's like, well, which one do I do first then? And I thought about reading them at the same time, like chapter by chapter, but then I don't know if that would get confusing if they are very similar. Like I might forget which book I'm reading. So I think I'm gonna go with The Last Mrs. Parrish first, because this one came out first. So this is the one I'm going to do first, and then Freida Mcfadden will be next. And she's the one that I've heard people say that they think she plagiarized this. You know, I've read lots of books that are very similar or have the same plot or whatever, so it doesn't really bother me, but I am curious to see how similar they actually are, and I will let you guys know along the journey. Hello everyone, this is me from the future. I actually heard a comparison between another Freida Mcfadden book and another author's work that also were allegedly plagiarized. So I'm actually going to read 4 books in this vlog instead of just the original 2. So the other one by Freida Mcfadden is The Wife Upstairs, and it's compared to Verity. And I also happen to already own Verity, so I'm like, well, let's go ahead and compare these books. So I went ahead and bought a cheap Kindle version of The Wife Upstairs, and I'll go ahead and do all 4 of these books. Okay, so before I get too far into these books, I just want to let you know my thoughts and my impressions, and then we can see whether they stay the same throughout this experiment or whether they change. So when it comes to plagiarism, I view plagiarism as what it actually is. If you're taking somebody else's actual words and saying that they're yours, then yes, that's plagiarism. But you can't technically copyright ideas. Ideas are not copyrightable. That being said, I don't think it's a good idea to just rip off other people's stuff. Like, everybody's gonna know it and they're not gonna like you for it, and it's just not a good idea. But as a writer myself, I do understand that sometimes you come up with a story and you think it's unique and different, and then you read a book or you see a movie and you're like, crap, that was my idea. But to be honest, pretty much every idea has been done. I almost guarantee that. If you come up with an idea, I guarantee if you did a lot of research, you will find somebody that did it first. Because the market has just been so flooded with so many authors, and you know, this has been a thing for hundreds of years, you know, that people have been writing novels and stuff. So I just don't think a truly unique idea is even possible. But that isn't to say that you can't take an idea that's already been done and make it your own and make it interesting, and you know, it's not like a carbon copy of somebody else's work. And that's the point, is you made it your own and you did it a little bit differently. And if it's the same plot, if it's the same trope, you know, there's a reason why we have tropes that have been done and done and done, you know, because A, all ideas have been taken, and B, people kind of expect that sometimes, you know, like if I want to read a gothic romance, there's certain tropes that I expect to be there. If I'm reading a slasher, there's a few things that I expect to be there, or else I don't classify it as that genre, you know? And so it's to be expected that there's going to be some tropish things going on. So I don't know. For me personally, I want to give Freida Mcfadden the benefit of the doubt, because like I said, as an author myself, I've been in the situation where I've read a book and it's really similar to one that I have an idea for, and I'm just like, dang it, people are gonna think that I'm ripping off this book, and I'm not, you know? Like, I have a lot of anxiety about that. I really do. You know, every time I read something similar that I've already written, or something that, you know, I have a whole notebook full of ideas and that I want to write, and when I come across somebody that's already done it, I do get a little bit upset. But I have to tell myself, you know, just write it anyways, just write what you want to write, and it is what it is. So I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. at this point in time. But we'll see if that holds true or if it changes. I don't know. We'll see. So one thing I didn't realize going into the Verity and The Wife Upstairs is I actually saw a blurb, and these are actually both retellings of Rebecca. So I'm not sure this is a fair comparison because it's already a ripoff of somebody else's work. Like, well, not a ripoff, but it's, it's a retelling basically. And unfortunately, I still have not read Rebecca. I know it's been a classic forever, and I really, really want to read it. I just haven't gotten to it yet. And I actually read a book not too long ago called The Fiction Writer, which is also based on Rebecca and is so far pretty similar to both Verity and The Wife Upstairs. So that kind of puts me in a pickle because I don't know how true it is to the original work, if that makes sense. So I can't be like, oh, they're very similar, but what if they're very similar because they're both very similar to Rebecca? I don't know because I have not seen the movie, I haven't read the book, so I can't really speak to that, but we'll see. So along those lines, even Rebecca itself has been accused of plagiarism. There was some book written in, like, I don't know if it's Mexico. It wasn't this country, but I can't remember which country it was, but there had been talk that it was ripped off from there. And then I don't think that it was, it just happened to be very similar. And I personally, knowing the gist of Rebecca and having read Jane Eyre, I think Jane Eyre and Rebecca are both very similar, but yet they both managed to be classics. So I don't know. Take it for what you will. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish reading these two books, and I'll chat with you later about it. So I've read the first two chapters of Verity and The Wife Upstairs, and I did read one person's post that said that even the beginning was the exact same because there was an accident in both of them. But honestly, they're not the same. Like, yeah, there are accidents, but like that could happen in thousands of books. The beginning of Verity, somebody gets hit by a car and is killed instantly, and it's pretty gruesome. And then in the first chapter of The Wife Upstairs, she's in a diner having breakfast, and there's this older lady that's choking on her food, and she saves her life, and then the woman's mad at her for, what are you doing? How dare you do that to me? I'm gonna sue you for hurting my ribs or whatever. So like, yeah, they're both accidents, but I wouldn't say they're the same. Like, one of them died, one of them didn't, and they were both completely different. So I thought that was a little comical in my opinion. In both cases, they had this accident, and then they did meet the guy that's going to give them the job looking after their wife. So in that sense, it's similar. But the accident itself, I don't think is similar at all. But, I'm just a little ways in, so it's too early to tell, but so far, not the same. I mean, like I said, the setup is similar in that these guys observed this tragic accident or whatever, and then they talk to them, and then they're like, hey, I have this job that you might be interested in. So I can see where the setup is similar, but at the same time, I could see that happening in lots of books. So I'm not that concerned yet. I got some book mail today, so I thought I would share it with you. We got Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies. So this is like a cozy mystery. It looked very fun and summery. I love the expressions on these girls' faces. And they're all reading a book. It looks like the same book, like they might be part of a book club or something. Here, I'm gonna go over on my husband's office chair. Says 10 days, 8 suspects, 6 cities, 5 authors, 3 bodies, 1 trip to die for. And I'm totally a sucker for books about authors, so that's awesome. Look how cute this inside is. Oh, I thought maybe that was like somebody had ruined it, and I was like, oh no, but no, that's part of the book, which just kind of adds to the charm. Look how cute. See if the back has that. Yeah, it does. Like different stuff. That's so cute. I really like that. So anyways, I don't really read very many cozy stuff, but it just looked really fun and summery, so it was kind of an impulse buy, but I don't regret it. Hello. So I have now finished Verity and The Wife Upstairs. So let's chat about it. So, like I said before, I haven't read Rebecca, which is what these two books are based on. So I can't really speak to that because they could be very similar because they're very similar to Rebecca. But at the same time, they are extremely similar to each other. Like most books that you read that are based on something else are still pretty different, but they have like, the same themes, the same tropes, the same characters a lot of times, but they do have differences. But I don't know, these ones are extremely similar, except Freida Mcfadden did like a role reversal. So I don't think I want to do spoilers in this video for those of you that have not read any of these books or haven't read all of these books. So that's all I'm going to say. And then Freida Mcfadden went a little bit further, and it was kind of irritating, to be honest, where she did kind of a switcheroo at the end where, I'm thinking this is pretty predictable because I felt like both of these books were pretty predictable in my opinion. But so I was like, okay, well, let's get to the end. And then the reveal comes and it's who I thought it was. And then she's like, no, never mind, it's this person. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then she's like, no, never mind, it really was the first person that you thought it was. So I didn't particularly like that. I thought that was kind of weird, but I don't know. It's like she was trying to add an extra twist in there that wasn't necessary, in my opinion. But I thought they were both very similar in my enjoyment of them. Like, I didn't like one over the other. I pretty much enjoyed them the same. So I don't know. I can't really say if I feel like she plagiarized Verity or not because, like I said, it is based on a third party. And I actually really do love retellings. Like Freida Mcfadden apparently wrote a book that was very similar to Psycho, and I love Psycho, so I actually went out and bought that one. It's called Do Not Disturb. So I don't know. This one's kind of a bust. I'm so sorry. I can't really speak to it. I will admit that they are both very, very similar, but it is possible that they both came up with this same idea and the same plot because the plot is very basic, very straightforward, and it is based on another person's work. So I think it is possible that they could have both just came up with this on their own. I really do. So I can't say that this definitively says that Freida Mcfadden ripped it off. I don't think she probably did. I think it was just a coincidence, and sometimes that happens. So on to the next one. I'm going to read The Housemaid and The Last Mrs. Parrish now. So today is a very sunny, warm day. I thought I'd wear this, kind of look springy, had some flowers on it. So there's like a cute little trail by my house that is alongside a river, and I thought I'd go do some reading there because there's a cute little bench where you can sit by the river. So I'll take you guys along with me and we'll get started on these books. So I'm sitting by the river and it's very loud. So I'm hoping you guys can hear this video. If not, I'll have to re-record it later. But I wanted to give you an update while I was still here on this pretty bench. So I'm just going to talk loud and hope for the best. So anyways, I've read 2 chapters of The Last Mrs. Parrish. And so far we're following this woman named Amber. And she seems kind of like she wants to be in the elite circles of the rich, but she's obviously not. She's poor, but that's what her goal is. That's what she's aiming for. And so in the beginning, she's at this gym and she sees this woman named Daphne, which, by the way, great name. That's my daughter's name. But anyway, so she's on the elliptical and she accidentally drops her magazine. And this other woman picks it up and they start a conversation about cystic fibrosis. And this woman, she had a sister who had passed away from cystic fibrosis. And so Amber is pretending that she also had a sister that passed away from the disease. But she already knew this ahead of time before she encountered this woman. So you know she's done some research on this woman before they met, which is pretty intriguing. And so she kind of weasels her way into a conversation and they hang out a little bit and they talk and she kind of pretends, oh, you're the woman that started the foundation for cystic fibrosis? I had no idea, but obviously she does know. And then in the second chapter, she makes it a point to travel to New York from Connecticut every Saturday. And she brings her own lunch because she can't afford to eat lunch there. But she goes to the Metropolitan Museum of Arts and she looks around and she reads a lot of art books and she does a lot of research because she feels like if she knows a lot about art and about different things in museums, then she would appear to the rich to be like one of them. I know the same things that you do about art. I know this artist is famous and why. That's kind of like her plan, is she kind of wants to portray that she's part of that world. And then at the very end of the chapter, she makes an interesting comment. She says, and she believes that a man like Jackson Parrish, a man who prided himself on his cultural aesthetic, would love it too. Talking about the knowledge that she has. So the fact that she accidentally weaseled her way into Daphne Parrish's life, and then now she's talking about the husband, saying that he's going to love and appreciate her knowledge of art. I have heard that this book is about this woman that's trying to snatch this other woman's life and try to take over her life. So, great setup. I'm excited to see where this goes. Obviously, she's an unlikable character, but I don't really mind that as long as I know that that's what the book is about, that she's supposed to be unlikable, then I don't really mind. It's when you're supposed to root for them and they're not very good people, that's when I have the issue. But if I go into a book knowing that they're supposed to be unlikable from the beginning, then it doesn't bother me. So I'm very excited, I'm very intrigued. The writing style is good, it flows easily, and I'm excited to get farther in. So I was driving to go pick up my daughter, and it was just the opposite road up the trail than I normally go. And I stumbled upon a free little library. So that's pretty exciting. So let's go take a look and see what's there. Doesn't look like there's too much. I have read some Tess Gerritsen and I did like it, so maybe. I've heard of Tammy Hogue, if that's how you say it, but I haven't read anything by her. Yeah, there's not much in here, but still pretty cool. Looks like somebody put their family portrait Christmas card in here. That's a little bit weird. I wouldn't be doing that. This one's kind of cute. The Grin Granny Donkey. My kids might like that one. So yeah, that's probably about the only one I'm really interested in. So it's a nice day outside again, so I'm going to do some reading at probably a park. So I'm going to start The Housemaid today. So last time when I went out into the sunshine to read and I was doing The Last Mrs. Parrish, I went to a free little library. So I thought I'd do that again with the library by my house, and we'll just see if there's anything interesting in there. Isn't it so cute? Well, I would say Verity, but I already own that book. But that's ironic because I'm reading that book for this vlog. I already own that one. I think I've heard of this author before, but I don't know, it could be interesting. Some Daniel Steele. I swear they've always got Daniel Steele in these things. Not a whole lot. I'm actually the one that put these in. These are my old pregnancy books. Don't need them anymore. I'm not planning on having any more kids, but so that's pretty much what there is. Okay, everyone, so a little bit of change of plans. I was going to read at the park, as you saw in my last clip when I went to the free little library. But unfortunately, when I got there, there was like maintenance people working on the landscaping, and then there was like a bus driver with his bus sitting there, and I just don't want to film when other people are around and talk to a camera. That's just embarrassing. So I was like, I guess I'm just gonna head on home. For right now, I'm just gonna stay at home then, and I'm gonna read the first few chapters of The Housemaid, and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, so I finished the first 2 chapters of The Housemaid, and so far I don't feel like they're all that similar. Like, yes, there's a poor woman talking to a rich woman, but that's pretty much where it ends. So in this instance, the main character definitely sounds like the victim, and that she's gonna end up being like trapped at this house. And in The Last Mrs. Parrish, she's definitely the instigator. Like, you could tell that she's trying to take over this woman's life and steal her husband. So it's kind of intriguing because I hear that the twist is the exact same. And so it's funny that a twist would be the same when one main character is definitely the bad guy. And then in this one, she seems more like the victim. So that's kind of intriguing and interesting. I know I said I wasn't going to read them simultaneously because I didn't want to spoil myself, because I didn't want to get confused. But I don't know, after reading the first couple of chapters of both of them, I kind of do want to read them side by side. So I don't know. It might be kind of fun. I just am a little bit nervous about getting myself confused on which book I'm reading, if they really do end up being really similar, but we'll see what happens. I guess I could start doing it side by side, and then if it gets confusing, then I can stop. But so anyways, so this is about a woman named Millie, and she's living out of her car, and she needs a place to stay, but she doesn't have any money, and so she needs to get a job first. So she's doing job hunting, and she decides to apply for the housekeeper job for this rich lady named Nina Winchester, even though she knows she's not going to get the job because apparently she's got a criminal record. And so she's like, you know, this rich woman's just going to do a background check and I'm not going to get it. But it sounds like a dream come true because it's a live-in position. So she would be living at this house and she would make a lot of money, more than she would just like flipping burgers at some fast food restaurant. So she applies anyways, just, you know, because she has nothing better to do anyways. What's the harm? And she ends up getting hired. So she's like, what? that's crazy, so she's really excited. And she's a little bit surprised though, because when she walks in and the lady tells her where her room would be, it's like up in the attic in this little teeny tiny room where the roof is slanted and takes up half the room. And so it's just this dingy, dark, little tiny room in this big, huge mansion. So she thinks that's a little bit weird, but it's better than living out of her car. So she jumps at the chance. This one has a lot more like suspenseful and creepy vibes, which I really enjoy. The other one doesn't have that same atmosphere. So far I am liking this one more. It just seems a little bit more up my alley. But it also seems like this one's going to be a little bit more straightforward, and I might be thinking the twist is predictable. That's just my hunch. Whereas the other one might be a little bit more subtle, but I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, so I'm about halfway through both The Housemaid and The Last Mrs. Parrish. Last time I read Verity and then I read The Wife Upstairs. But this time I decided to read them kind of simultaneously. So I've been reading like a few chapters from one and then a few chapters from the next one. I'm actually headed down to the cabin. I say the cabin like you should know what that is. So my parents own a cabin up in Causey, which is close to me. It's by a reservoir. Anyways, it's about an hour away. I'm going up there with my family, and so hopefully I'll find some time to finish these books up while I'm there, but I won't be able to talk to you till I get back. However, being halfway through both of them, I think I'm starting to change my mind about Freida Mcfadden. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt because I know what it's like to find an idea that somebody already did. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know. This one feels a little bit more plagiarizing to me. Simply because this isn't based on anything. It's not based on a classic, and if you want to do something that's in the public domain, go for it. The public domain is anybody's use. You can do whatever the heck you want. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I've written plenty of horror mashups and they're all based on classics. I don't have a problem with that at all. But this book is very similar to a book that's not in the public domain, that isn't a classic, that isn't, up for grabs. And it's very, very similar. And it was just like Verity. She did a role reversal where the wife in The Housemaid, I'm getting all of these books confused because, to be honest, all four of these books are very similar to each other. It's like you have like the wife and the husband and some other chick that's coming in to be the housemaid or coming in to be the helper of the wife, or but they all kind of mesh together because honestly all four of these books are really pretty similar to each other. So let me think if I can say this right. So the housemaid, the wife is like very mean and not very nice. And the housemaid is a sympathetic character. And then in The Last Mrs. Parrish, it's the opposite, where the main character is very unlikable and like a snob, and I don't like her. But then the wife seems a little naive and ditzy or whatever, but she seems like a very nice person. And so again, it's like she took the same plot but did a role reversal. It's like the same. So I don't know. And it's not even just like, if it was just like the same trope and the same twist and like a similar plot, I can see that happening. That does happen. You have a haunted house book, they're all very similar. But at the same time, this is the same in like the little details. Like I'm not going to tell you what those are necessarily because I don't know what's spoilers and what's not. But like the broad picture, I can see that being the same. But when even the tiny details start to line up and there's like 5 smaller details that are also the exact same, that's a little bit more than just we came up with the same plot in happenstance, Like I can't necessarily believe that somebody would come up with that much that's the same. So yeah, it does kind of seem suspicious to me, but I'm going to go ahead and finish these up and I'll let you know my final thoughts when I get back from my trip. Somebody had started to build a little log cabin a really long time ago. I used to hike up here when I was a kid. And this is all that's left.
Green, dude.
I want to swim.
I know you
There's
do.
2 extras. I don't know what colors they are, though.
It's green.
Careful. Just make sure we don't snap things. Okay. Sorry.
I could have a double one.
So we want to take things we can build a little bit. Yeah.
Too bad he's not coming up.
Do you guys want a roast?
Good job. Hello all, I'm back from my trip and amazingly enough, I was able to finish these 2 books even though there was like 11 kids up there to watch over and it was complete chaos. I'm pretty exhausted, but I did manage to finish reading these books, so that was awesome. So my final thoughts. So, yeah, I think they're too similar to believe that they just happened to come up with this on their own. But that being said, the second half was pretty different actually. Like the first half was very similar, like everything was the same other than the role reversal, obviously. But then the second half, it was like Freida Mcfadden did go in a slightly different direction, and then like the very ending was different. So I don't know. I feel like she did probably rip off this book, but she did kind of make it her own instead of just blatantly the whole thing is the same. So I don't know. I don't necessarily want to give her kudos for that because you shouldn't rip off other people's stuff, even if it's not legally binding because you can't copyright ideas. It's still not a good thing to do, in my opinion. So there's that. But unfortunately, even though I do feel like Freida Mcfadden might have plagiarized a bit, I actually liked her book better, which I hate saying. So The Last Mrs. Parrish, I felt like... Here's my thing. So I don't like following unlikable characters. It aggravates me to no end. I don't like it. By the end of the book, I can understand why Liv Constantine decided to do what she did and how she wrote it. And I do think that the idea behind doing that was very clever. You know, you have this unlikable character, then you have the wife that's very like naive and stuff, and then it kind of does a flippy-do in the second half. And so I felt like it was pretty clever, and I do understand why she did that. But unfortunately, I just didn't like it as much. I just didn't connect to the character for the first half of the book because she wasn't likable. And then I thought the idea was clever, but the execution just wasn't necessarily my favorite thing. And I enjoyed the Freida Mcfadden book more. And I don't want to side with the plagiarist by saying that, but I have to be honest, and I did. I enjoyed the story more. I enjoyed the characters more. There was something about the really last end of this book that I really liked and makes me want to read the sequel and the third one in this trilogy that it's turned into. So I don't know. I'm conflicted because on the one hand, like I said, it does seem more than a coincidence. But I did enjoy the story and I did like it and I had a fun time with it. So I guess take that for what you will. I will probably continue to read Freida Mcfadden. I don't like that she's making money off of somebody else's idea, but I don't think she did that to all of her books. I hope not. You know, who knows? But I already own a few other ones, and so I will continue to read from Freida Mcfadden, if only to finish the ones that I've already purchased that are already sitting on my shelf. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about this. Leave me a comment below on your feelings towards this, whether you think that Freida Mcfadden ripped off Liv Constantine's idea or not, which one you preferred. I know a lot of people preferred Liv Constantine, so good for her. I just personally felt differently. So if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up to let me know. I can do some other videos if this one does well enough. I did find another book that I could also compare and contrast in this same way. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already and you want to do so, please hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when my videos come out, and I'll see you later. See ya!